Hello, and thank you for joining us for our Know Before You Go presentation. This presentation was designed with you in mind, small businesses who are really interested in accessing opportunities within the Department of Health and Human Services. We're going to talk about doing business, but most importantly, give you some ideas and some feedback from the lessons learned within the HHS staff that supports the Office of Small Business. I'm Shanta Johnson. I'm the Deputy Director for Operations, and it is really our desire to help you be successful in doing business with HHS. Now, before we get into the presentation, there are a couple of things I want to make sure that we're very clear about. When you're deciding to come to an HHS-sponsored event, be it our vendor outreach session, an industry day, or an opportunity where you can participate in an access forum, it's important that you understand that our commitment to the internal stakeholders is that we are going to be presenting the best and brightest within each NAICS code to our acquisition workforce as well as to our program managers. So when you have an opportunity to participate in a counseling session, this is what we don't want you to do. We don't want you to come to the counseling session and begin your presentation by sitting across from myself or somebody on my team and start telling us about your company and all your socioeconomic designations. That is not the focus of sitting down and having a one-on-one conversation. You know what we want to hear? We want to know about the solutions that your business can provide to help fulfill our mission. So keeping that in mind, the next few slides, we're going to talk about some things that you definitely should know before you come to a one-on-one counseling session within the department so you can maximize that opportunity and get one step closer to getting that contract with this department. During the presentation, there are a couple of things that I'm going to make sure that we achieve. We're going to talk about some required registrations that all small businesses need to have to participate in the federal marketplace. We're going to talk about the rules. It is so important to understand the federal acquisition regulations. And most importantly, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what operating division within HHS meets the mission for what it is you're buying and what you want to provide to us. And finally, we're going to wrap up with giving you a couple of ideas of how to use some different online tools to help you in your market research and to find where the real opportunities are within the organization. So let's begin with SAM. Now, most of you know what SAM is, and what I really want you to take away from this particular slide is to know this. If your business is not registered into SAM, you cannot get paid. What else is there to say? If you don't have a registration that is active and accurate within the SAM system for award management, the federal government does not have the necessary information that we need on your business to be able to pay you once services are rendered. So please make sure that you're registered in SAM, and you need to do that at the front end so you can be in position to get paid after you give us services. Now, the Small Business Administration profile. This is one area where we see a lot of small businesses really neglect this particular responsibility that you have, and I want to emphasize that it's really critical. The profile is within the dynamic small business search field, and SBA created this so that you, as a small business owner, can keep us, the federal buyer, up to date on your company's most recent certifications, your past performance, and any other kind of information that you think is vital for us to know about your firm. What we typically see is small businesses may upload the information into the profile when they first get into the DSBS, and then the information is totally neglected. And let me tell you, I personally, as well as my team, go into the dynamic small business search on a regular basis, and so do members of the acquisition workforce, to find businesses like yours. And we're looking for particular NAICS codes. We're looking for businesses that have certain socioeconomic designations, and you could possibly be missing opportunities simply because you are not making it a priority to keep the information in your SBA profile accurate. So our advice to you is, before you come to any type of meeting with a government agency, that your SBA profile is up to date and that it's current. And if we have to make reference to it, we will have the most accurate information about your business. Now on to the law. I know no one likes to read the Federal Acquisition Regulation. It's not the most interesting, but it is critical. And one of the things that I want to stress is a business owner really needs to understand that the Federal Acquisition Regulation is the set of guidelines that every acquisition official depends on to do their job in making sure that all the terms and conditions of a contract are being met. It is critical that you, as the potential business owner, business solution provider rather, is really, really clear about what the government is going to be holding you responsible for. So I've given you two websites here, and the first is the thomas.loc.gov, and this is where you can go and quickly get to the different federal acquisition regulations. And the reason I want to stress that is because, of course, there are different regulations if you're doing business in the state government. There are different regulations if you're working at the county level. There are different sets of regulations if you're in the commercial sector, and the federal government definitely has its set of regulations. So bookmark this website and make sure that you reference it when you get a new contract so that you are always aware of what you're being held responsible for during the life of that particular contract. The second bullet I'm including is the Small Business Act. And it may seem simple to ask a small business owner to be familiar with this act, but it isn't. It's very, very important that you know what the parameters are of all the federal government socioeconomic programs. So if you want to know about what does it take to be awarded a service disabled veteran-owned small business contract or a HUB zone set-aside contract, or what exactly is a small business and how is the government using its small business authority. This is where you can go to find out about the public law, what it says, and most importantly, when it's updated. So once again, you can be very, very clear about the terms and conditions of being a successful small business in the federal marketplace. Some more regulatory guidance for you. I think it's very important that, as I mentioned a little earlier, that you really understand not from what you heard from another business owner or for that matter what you heard from another government official, but you are very, very clear about all of the socioeconomic categories and how they operate. So Title 13 of the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations is a website that you should definitely bookmark. And I've provided you one of several websites you can use at the bottom of this page at ecfr.gpoaccess.gov. Now, on to where is the real opportunity. One thing that I see small businesses historically underutilize is the Federal Procurement Data System. It's a system of all of the contract award information in one particular location. Why is that advantageous to you? It really should be information that you use as a business development tool. When you go to FPDS, first of all, you don't have to register to even search through the website and find out what agencies are buying your particular services. This particular website is a one-stop shop to see where every federal government agency, including the Department of Defense, has made contract awards. That is very advantageous and helpful to your small business because you'll be able to find out the dollar value of the contract, what particular organization within the agency awarded the contract, when that contract actually expires, and what was the acquisition strategy utilized to award that contract. So once you have that type of information, you can then be more decisive about what work you should pursue, where there are going to actually be new opportunities and new opportunities for the government to recompete for a contract that is about to expire. And I really want to encourage you to not just think that this is a website where you can only go find out where your competition got awards, but to take this information and use it to help you have a more strategic business development strategy. FedBizOpps. Many small businesses should and probably know that FedBizOpps is the primary portal that the federal government uses to post all of its RFPs, requests for proposals, and contracting opportunities that are over $25,000. But there's some things about FedBizOpps that I want to point out to you that you should know before you sit down to a meeting with a government official. When you go to FedBizOpps, there's an opportunity for you to be added to an interested parties list. That means when an RFP comes out, businesses that are interested in this particular requirement will upload their business email address. And what I like about that feature is it identifies businesses that you could potentially partner or team with or enter into joint ventures. And one of the things that I really want to stress to you is the federal government's requirements are going to continue to get larger, and the Department of Health and Human Services is no exception. So with that being said, it's very important that small businesses begin to be more strategic and intentional about leveraging their resources and finding other small businesses that have past performance, that have NAICS codes, and certain technical skill sets that their business may not have, but that will be complementary to what you have, so you can collectively come together and collaborate as a team and compete on larger requirements. My team and I work very hard with the program offices within HHS to really encourage them to welcome teaming arrangements when RFP submissions are submitted, and we really are depending on you as the small business community to bring more teaming solutions to the RFP process. Also in FedBizOpps, please make sure that you're aware that you can search by all types of different fields to find out where work is being performed in a particular city or state. You can certainly search by different NAICS codes, and it's so important that when you come to meet with us one-on-one, the best way to maximize that conversation is to have a particular requirement that you want to talk to us about. Rather than just sitting down saying, "Hi, I'm the president of Shanta Johnson Enterprises and I'm a small business. What can you do for me, HHS?" What we want to see you do is come to that meeting having looked at FPDS, having looked at the FedBizOpps and said, well, I found this particular requirement. I know it's going to expire in the next year, and I feel like my business can provide a better solution. We definitely know that our pricing is fair and reasonable, and here is how we would like to propose to help HHS or whatever particular operating division you're after to come up with a solution that they may not have had before or even thought about before. That type of approach and that type of conversation will always be attractive to an acquisition official and or a program manager. And at the end of your conversation, once you have already proven that you have the technical expertise, that you have a particular service that we really do need, you end the conversation by saying, by the way, to help streamline the acquisition process, if you so choose to, my company has this type of certification or this type of designation. And that is the way we would really want to encourage you to maximize including your socioeconomic designations at the end of the marketing conversation. This next website that I'm offering to you is one that I'm really surprised that a lot of small businesses are not really aware of. And I think it's a very helpful tool. It's the Interagency Contract Directory. And what is really valuable about this website is that it really is a one-stop shop to find out about all of the BPA and IDIQ, which stands for indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, contract activity that's happening within the federal government. Once again, very much like the Federal Procurement Data System website I mentioned earlier, the ICD gives you detailed award information. So it's important for you as business owners to see not only what the government's buying trends are, but it's very helpful for you to also see where your competition is getting awards. And the government really utilizes BPAs, GWAC contracts, and all other kinds of task order award vehicles heavily. This is one website that you can go to and see, once again, the dollar value of that task order, what particular part of an agency awarded that contract, and in ICD, you get an actual name of the contracting official and an email, in some instances, even a telephone number. You have to know how to take that information and leverage it and turn it around to start a conversation with a decision maker in that particular agency. And once again, I want to reiterate, when you get that type of information, it's important that you have the conversation when you finally get that meeting to talk about your company's technical expertise and how you can provide a better solution to what their challenge is than the previous contractor. Now let's talk a little bit about thinking about where you can find opportunities based on all the things that I've just shared with you. So the first question you should ask yourself before you come to a meeting with a government official here at HHS is, which part of the HHS operating division buys what I sell? And if me saying operating divisions is a surprise to you, that means you need to go back and do a little bit more homework about HHS. We don't have bureaus. We don't have business lines. Here at HHS, we have 10 operating divisions that make up the department and are responsible for all of the products and services that we need to fulfill our department's mission. So the best way for you to find out about which operating division buys what you sell is, of course, to reference the Federal Procurement Data System, as I mentioned, but there's also another document that I want you to be aware of, and that is called the Budget in Brief. What is so exceptional about the HHS Budget in Brief is first of all, it's in plain language. That means that when you go to the hhs.gov website and simply type in the search bar, Budget in Brief, it is an extensive document that spells out to the reader exactly what the priorities are for that particular operating division for the upcoming fiscal year. Why does that matter to you? Because it really serves as a cheat sheet. It tells you what the program managers and the decision makers within each of those 10 operating divisions has decided is their priority. If you provide a service or a product that can support those priorities, that is powerful information for you to have when you sit down to talk to someone from within that particular operating division. The next question you should ask yourself are, who are the top federal spenders in my primary NAICS code? And once again, you can find that information in the Federal Procurement Data System. Who is my competition selling to? Another question that you should be able to answer before you meet with a government official. You can find that out in the FPDS as well as the ICD. Where can I look for potential contract opportunities? As I said earlier, FedBizOpps is the government's primary portal for all contracting opportunities, but also remember that Budget in Brief I just explained. You want to be ahead of the curve in contract award as much as you possibly can by tapping any resource that you can find that has information about when contracts are going to expire, so you can then know how early to start marketing your particular services, so you'll be in position and you would have already been exposed to the decision makers who will be involved in awarding the contract for the recompete. Where do I find valuable teaming partners? I really can't stress this enough. Teaming is the future. It's now and it's the future. And in teaming partners, you really should take the time to once again look in the Federal Procurement Data System and also check out that interested parties list that I mentioned that you'll find in FedBizOpps. And finally, where are the opportunities among the various federal IDIQ contracting vehicles? And I shared with you the website for the ICD directory. Once you've looked at all those resources and you've really developed a business development strategy, you've really sat down and thought about who has the money for what type of product or service I want to sell to the government, who has made my type of product or service a priority in fulfilling their mission. The next step should be to really get to know the team within the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. And why? because, as you know, the Department of Health and Human Services is very large. We award about $19 billion annually in direct contract awards, and we're spread out throughout the DMV area and in Atlanta. It can be quite overwhelming for a small business to try to figure out which person you should be speaking to within HHS to help you get closer to providing services to this agency. The OSDBU has, on a monthly basis, it's the second Tuesday of every month, what we call our vendor outreach session. This vendor outreach session is an opportunity for you to go to our website and to select 3 of the 10 operating divisions, to sit down and talk to my staff, who are the small business specialists, who are co-located within each of the operating divisions. Why is that so helpful to you? Because at HHS, when we put our resources out within the operating division, it afforded us the opportunity to have a small business champion in the field working with the acquisition workforce, meeting and interacting and working with the program managers to make sure that the message of small business remains a priority in the day-to-day business operations of that particular operating division. The vendor outreach session gives you 10 minutes to sit down with the small business specialist that supports that particular optive, and you have, I'd like to say, it's an introductory discussion. You certainly can't get into any kind of real in-depth conversation in that 10-minute window, but you can certainly have a conversation to ensure that your core competencies and skill sets fit within that optive, and the small business specialist can give you guidance as to who you should talk to. They may invite you to see them after the vendor outreach session to have a more in-depth conversation. And so this is really the first touch point to make sure that your time is being well spent and you are maximizing all of the resources that the government has made available to you in getting closer to securing government contracts. Also within the OSDBU, we really encourage you to have in-person meetings with our team. And from those meetings, for those of you that we vet and really see that you are ready to do business with us, the small business specialists are charged with setting up capability briefings to allow businesses to meet with program managers at their discretion. You may have also heard about an initiative that we do every year called Back to Business. Back to Business is when we take our small business message outside of the DC Beltway area. We go to typically the East Coast, the West Coast, and we sometimes even go to the Midwest, but to really help businesses that are not here in the DC area learn more about HHS and how we do business. And we also include in our Back to Business initiative something that we've started, which is called virtual matchmaking. So it's the same kind of format as the monthly vendor outreach session, but we use webcam technology and allow small businesses to talk to either heads of contracting, program managers, or the small business specialists to talk again about how your business can help support and fulfill the mission of HHS. And finally, we are using technology, and we have our own YouTube page, and I really want you all to understand that we do this with you in mind. We do this because the HHS OSDBU is made up of men and women who are passionate about supporting small business. And when you go to our YouTube page, you will find that we have asked each of our heads of contracting to do a video about how to do business with their optive. That is archived on the YouTube page, so you can watch those, get that information, and be prepared before you come to any of our outreach events. So check out our How to Do Business videos from our HCAs, and I provided you with the YouTube link in the fourth bullet. And last but certainly not least, we do understand the importance of partnership. And here at HHS, we have a wonderful relationship with the Procurement Technical Assistant Program, or PTACs, which they are more so known for throughout the federal community. The thing about the PTACs that make them so wonderful are they really help businesses who are new to federal contracting. They take you on as a client, and they really walk you through how to understand the federal government regulations, how to put together your business plan. They give you a lot of help and training for how to understand government, how to get various certifications, and we really want you to use this resource. We have one in this area at George Mason University. There's one at the University of Maryland, and the most recent one is here in Washington, D.C. So the last bullet I've given you is a URL where you can access the PTAC, and I certainly encourage you to utilize that resource because they're excellent and they can help you also prepare yourself before you get to the federal government and want a meeting with some of our decision makers. So that is our presentation for Know Before You Go. It's important that you take the advice that we've put together and presented to you today into consideration, that you utilize it. Also remember, during the federal government acquisition life cycle, the first and second quarters of the calendar, which is from October 1 to September 30, are the best times for you to market any federal government agency. Once you get into the third and fourth quarter, most of the decisions for how spending is going to be done for that particular fiscal year are done. So I encourage you to come to HHS vendor outreach sessions, to get to know our small business specialists, take the advice my team has put together for you today. And once you put all of that together, it's just a matter of time. And it does take time to get a federal government contract. There are no silver bullets in the world of acquisition. But if you're consistent, if you follow the advice that we give you, we're pretty sure in the matter of time, you will definitely be successful. Continued success to you, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.